and the seagulls follow the shore. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
And as we say now in my country, they brought the bus and they left the bus in front of the goal.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. Never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, good evening everybody. Welcome back on board the Bhoycie Bus it's a bit of a sombre mood here on the bus because it's unfortunately Rangers 3, Celtic 0 in the last Glasgow Derby of the season. With myself guiding the bus today as Bhoycie has been held captive at his workplace by those evil employers. But I'm proud to say that I'm happily joined by the bronze Adonis there in the top corner, the face that runs the P.M.P place, Mr. Terry Robb, and another face who's a bit of a novelty for the P.M.P. It's our Regan. Guys, how are you both doing on such a disappointing afternoon?
I'm good, Steve-o. With a bit of a heat wave over here this weekend, so enjoying that today. Great to see Regan on as well.
Absolutely. Yourself, Regan, good to see you, mate.
Oh, thank you for having me on, guys. I'm doing well. Well, I'm not doing too well, but that Celtic game today wasn't too good, guys. So I'm sure we'll definitely get a lot of talking points.
Absolutely. Well, one thing we don't do in the bus is come rain or shine, positive or negative, we're always here to break it down and chew over the fat, which we will get round to. But before we do that, it's of course time for a wee bit of housekeeping that we do on the bus, because it's time for what we call all that good stuff. If you're taking the time to join us on YouTube, then flick over, give the thumbs up to the video, subscribe if you haven't already. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? That way you'll get every notification every time we go live, be kept abreast of further videos that are coming up. And if you're feeling a wee bit mental, you can even share the video. That'll just give us a wee bit more traction, spread the word. Of course, you can also tune in to all our other podcasts uploaded to Acast on the EPL Index, and we're back on usual platforms such as Spotify as well. And we're also on our social media. We've got the official Bhoycie Bus Twitter. Get over to Twitter, search for Bhoycie Bus, follow us there. And of course, all our personal handles are also on there if you want to listen to our shit out with the realms of the bus. Now, we've also got two sponsors you're well familiar with. The first is needs no introduction. It's been here. It's a mainstay. PieSports.com. Get your body over to PieSports.com. place your order, and when you do, fire in Bus 1888 at the end for a tasty 12.5% off your next order in $955,000 pies, because they are the shit. They are the dog's balls. Get involved. But there's also one other, more recent, and it is ED Pharmacy. So, if you are fed up of your partner giving you a hard time because when it comes round to getting the business done, you're more Mo Bangura than Henrik Larsson, then get yourself on ED Pharmacy, get some of those magic beans on order, and use the code BUS10 for 10% off. When they come in the post, you can get round to giving your partner a hard time, but in the positive meaning of the sense. Oh yeah, giggity giggity. Anyway, that's it. The housekeeping is out the way. We have a horrendous result to discuss. So let's just get straight into it, shall we? I'll just ask you guys in general, what was your thoughts on it? And then we'll start to pick the bones of this. We'll start with yourself, Terry, as our Mr. P.M.P. Tell us about your thoughts on this, my friend. How are you feeling today?
I'm torn, Steve-O. I'm really torn because, you know, I don't want to go in too hard on a team that's just suffered their second domestic defeat of the season. By the same token, I am disappointed. I mean, I know the chat in the build-up was probably the most meaningless Glasgow Derby in years and years. I still didn't sleep well last night. I still woke up in the middle of the night with those pre-match nerves. I still made my plans all around that game today. I actually I had to take a few chances, and I ended up undercover today in the bar where I was in a minority of one watching the game. Needs must. My young lad was playing a match, and I had to get him to his match, but I also had to see the Celtic game. So I took a few chances, and I sat in a few dodgy seats. And I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but I didn't have very much to cheer about. But it wasn't nice watching those around me cheering. The other side of that is, I mean, watching the game and watching 70 and 80-year-old men doing the bouncy. Whenever your biggest rivals are about to win a treble, I mean, that's in Roy Keane's words, that's embarrassing as well. So I'm torn. I'm not angry because the team have given us so many wonderful moments across the season, and do you know what? They're allowed an off day. I would be very surprised if they weren't celebrating last weekend and maybe into the early part of the week. I don't know what goes on at the training ground, but I'd be surprised if the intensity has been there this last week as it would have been in previous weeks. So I'm not angry. I'm not gonna think about it beyond today. But my emotions that I'm feeling now is I'm disappointed because I don't want to sit there and watch green and white jerseys not being filled. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter. The game's there. We have to play the games. These last 4 games are in the calendar. We've got to play them. I just want the guys that go out onto the park to give 100% and be wanting it as much as I do, to be honest, or any other Celtic supporter. And I probably feel that we probably didn't get that today. I can't think of very many. I can't think of any players, to be honest, that I would have given pass marks to today. I just thought it was a hangover. I'll probably put it down to a hangover. That's probably the best way, because when I've got a hangover, I probably don't feel too good, and I don't perform the same way as I do. And I'll certainly not be performing any task with the wife tonight. She can forget about that unless she gets onto the sponsor. I think I'll put it down to a hangover. I'm disappointed. I'm not angry. I can't get angry with the team after the great joy that they've given me over the course of the season. But I'm very, very disappointed that we just didn't show up. And as a team, every single player, there isn't anybody that I can think of that had a decent game. Probably Starfelt wasn't the worst. He was kind of caught up a wee bit with McGregor for the 3rd goal, but I mean the game was done by that time. Once it went to 2-0, the game was done. Yep. General just feeling of disappointment, but I'm not going to let it fester. I mean, if it was a game that meant something, I probably would still be thinking about it in 3 and 4 weeks' time. It's not going to spoil this season for me. We go on with it. We've got a cup final to look forward to. We've got a treble to look forward to. I'll digest it. I'll process it over the rest of tonight. But once it gets to midnight, it's gone. I ain't thinking about it anymore. That's where I'm at.
No, I feel I agree with you. It's conflicting, isn't it? We're swimming in uncharted waters because it's been a long time since we've had this taste in our mouth, and it's unfamiliar and it's disappointing, as you say. I think, we'll get round to it. There was too many guys that were empty jerseys. There was folk that was given a chance, and they're certainly not rose to the occasion, that's for sure. That's what, Terry's take on it. Regan, are you in a similar camp? Is it disappointment? Is it anger? Is it frustration? Is it a combination of all? Where are you sitting with it?
I mean, I think for me, straight off when I seen the starting 11, I didn't have a good feeling about it, Steve-O, because for me, as much as I like and Bernabei, I don't think it was the right game to put them in. I know that Bernabei needs to get a chance, but I think it's shown again today that we need to upgrade the subs bench. I know people say we've got a great bench, but I think it was proven today, Steve-O, that bench needs to improve big time. Because for me, David Turnbull is somebody we need to get rid of as well. You've got so many players, and I don't think we've managed to see a Abada for quite a few months now, but then he started today, so it was just a little bit strange for me.
It was a bit disjointed, wasn't it? I don't think anybody was expecting as many changes as we've seen, and perhaps we'll get round to it again. Ange at the end suggesting that perhaps he made too many changes. Do you think it was too much surgery?
I think it definitely was, Steve-O, because I think in a game of that magnitude, if you're showing your players that you've got any sign of weakness and you're thinking to yourself, well, we're not going to take this game 100%, then I think it's showing a sign of weakness, because if you look at the previous game that we lost against St Mirren and Paisley, I think we made something like 6 changes that game as well, Steve-O.
Yep.
So I think it just shows. Yeah, I think it just shows you. See, when you don't play the starting players, I think there's a big drop off.
Absolutely. That's the thing. It's going to be the topic of conversation. And I suppose that goes on both sides, which made today's match a wee bit more compelling. We look at Rangers. They made several changes as well. McCrory, Yilmaz, Suter, Sakala and Matondo and Cantwell is that kind of unfamiliar 3 up front. So I suppose we've got to look at both sides of the coin here. We made changes. We had fringe guys coming in. They had fringe guys coming in, maybe looking towards next season. There's maybe a difference in the approach to that. Perhaps we're playing those guys because, the league's wrapped up. Let's see what they've got. Let's put them into a boiling pot, really intense atmosphere, and see how they stand up. Maybe on Rangers' side, it's a case of this is what's going to be here. They need to play. They need to start hitting the ground running. But it's mixed results. And unfortunately, in the battle of the also-rans and the sort of less favourable for both sides, are you surprised that it was their second string guys that rose to the occasion, Terry? Is there any level of concern in that for yourself? Because, you can argue about guys being their first game or the big occasion, but you can say that on both sides.
I nearly called you Bhoycie there just out of habit, Steve-O. I think their lineup was a nod towards next season, because they didn't play players that are likely not to be there next season. So I think we just made changes for the sake of making changes, because I don't see, unless there's a massive upturn in ability, I don't see Bernabei playing next season as a first choice. I just don't see it. I read some sort of crazy stories this week that he's about to be called up to the Argentina national team.
I saw that, actually. I had a wee laugh.
They must be smoking the same stuff that Mickey Bale's smoking. If that guy's an Argentina international,
no way.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how that can be the case. I don't see. He's not going to be a starter for us next season. From what I've seen from Kobayashi, nice and neat and tidy on the ball. I just worry about him in terms of the physical side of the game, and
Yep.
I don't see him being a starter for Celtic next season. Probably did what we've seen a lot of the fringe players do recently, where when they come on at the end of games, they look impressive, and you're kind of thinking, I'd like to see him start. Then when he starts, he doesn't do a great deal. I mean, if he scores his goal, that game's probably different, to be honest. But he didn't score it, and these games are settled on fine margins, and a lot of football is down to fine margins, and the difference between a good result and a bad result is what happens in that split second. And he hit the post. It could have easily gone in, but it didn't go in, and that's where you're at. We need our striker in that game, in that atmosphere, in that scenario where we've gone one down. We had a chance to equalise within 2 or 3 minutes, and if he takes that, it's probably a different game, and we could be sitting here having a completely different conversation. But the long and short of it is, he didn't take it, and I'll be totally honest. I didn't feel that he shone really in his time in the game, to be honest with you. So probably similar to what's happened with Haksabanovic, when he's played 10 or 15 minutes, there's enough there for you to think, yeah, I want to see more of this. I know he's been the same. He's been sort of patient coming on for Kyogo around about the hour, 70 minutes, and looked okay. But he got his big opportunity today, and I didn't see anything there that makes me think that he's going to be a starter for us next season either. Abada came back in from the cold. I'm a massive fan of Abada. I didn't think he was great today. Probably, given that he's been out injured for a sort of medium-term injury, can maybe give him a bye ball. But today was an opportunity for those guys who are on the fringes, trying to break into the team to show that they should be in the team, but none of them did it. So I don't see how the changes for Celtic are a pointer towards next season, because I don't see the players that were brought in and given an opportunity. I don't see any of them breaking into the main starting 11. In terms of Rangers, I think it's slightly different, because they're going to be losing Kent, they're going to be losing Morelos. I'm not sure what with the goalkeeping situation. I think McCrory coming in probably signals that he's going to be involved in the first team next season, whether he's first choice or whether he's back up to someone else that they can bring in. I think they're trying to do a copycat sort of sign-in with Jack Butland. That'll be fine. He'll probably play about 2 matches for them or something before he's injured. So I think their team was potentially building towards next season. Ours, I think we just made changes just for the sake of it, just because the league was done and we could, kind of thing. Whereas my preference, and I said this on last week's post-match pitch, I just wanted to put the foot to the throat this weekend. I thought this was a chance for us to just sap every last bit of breath out of this Mickey Beale Rangers team, and we didn't do it. We just handed it to them on a plate today, and I know I'll probably get accused of an overreaction and all of that, but I would much rather we had gone in there today and gave them a doing, and over the whole summer Mickey Beale's still scratching his head going, I've not been able to beat this team. Now he's got that monkey off his back, and whether it's a weakened Celtic team or not, whether it's a game that doesn't really mean anything or not, that monkey's off his back, and that lifts a little bit of the pressure off him. And he'll be going into next season going, do you know what? I've cracked it. I am able to beat this Celtic team. And even if that gives them a 1%, 2% sort of confidence boost going into the next season, I think that's something that we could have avoided by going in there today, full throttle, and getting the job done. So I'm disappointed from that perspective, because I don't think Celtic did very much in that game to try and win it. I think it just had that end of season going through the motions type thing, and that's a bit disappointing.
You're 100% right in your assessment there. I think what's important, Regan, when we look at this game and we put it into context to a full season, as has been said, and there's loads of people in the comments, there's loads of people online, and I'm sure it'll continue throughout the week. There's many ways to spin it. There's always going to be it doesn't mean anything, it was half a team. But there's also as your fiercest rivals, and there's never a dead rubber, there's never meaningless game when it comes to playing Rangers, whether it's in the cup, whether it's in the league or anywhere else in between. You always want to win those games. Was it perhaps a bit short-sighted for us to go experimental in a game like that? I mean, for myself, for example, I'm very much of the opinion that you always play your best team, and we've been pushing this sort of mantra of we never stop, and the most important game is the next. And I think we've only ever really seen Ange show a hand where he's perhaps had an eye on something else, was when we played the game in Europe. And, you know, otherwise thinking we've got a chance here, and we ended up getting out, but he was looking further down the line. Do you think that's something that he's done uncharacteristically here? He's maybe backed down for his principles, and he has got one eye on the cup final and not want to risk guys? Or do you think it is solely just about experimenting and giving fringe guys a chance? For me, I think that the cup final, yes, it's going to be on for a treble. It's going to be a massive game. However, I personally wouldn't have any issue with playing your best team. And you can say about, what if someone gets injured? Well, see, if we did have an injury or two, I would still expect probably we put out today, if that's what we had to do in the cup final, to be able to take out an Inverness. So, what do you think, Regan? Is it short-sighted?
I think in terms of Ange, it was probably a little bit short-sighted, because in terms of maybe Ange took Rangers a bit lightly, maybe because he's beat them the last 5 times. He's went, well, I can just go and turn up, and maybe the players have got that attitude. Because I don't know what you guys thought, but I thought the pressing from Celtic was way off today as well. I thought, because I thought we were see me from watching it, I thought that the midfield was so non-existent. Usually McGregor and Rio are right on the ball and managing things, but we didn't seem to do that today. Steve and Terry.
Yeah, no, but there was things did look a bit amiss. If we start from the very beginning of the match, Rangers came out flying. We'd always expect that. It was a red hot atmosphere, home crowd. They set out their stall nice and early, and we did find ourselves a wee bit disjointed. And he says the midfield, there was passes going astray. They were getting themselves harassed. They were getting themselves in positions that we wouldn't normally find ourselves being in. Now, if we start looking and going back to the goals, so let's just start picking the bones of this. Obviously, the first goal comes in. Who's at fault, do we dare say? You know, we're all at 6s and 7s. We get the big shot in from Lundstrom. Hart parries it out. 2 hands right into the path of Cantwell. And, you know, you can say what you want about him. He finishes it well. He puts it away. I was a wee bit conflicted with that, but I do think that it's a combination of both Hart and Kobayashi. Hart gets 2 hands on it, but he should really, any good goalkeeper should be getting a strong hand on that. I think turning it outside round his post for a corner at best, or straight out the pitch. But then when the ball comes back in, Kobayashi doesn't know his arse for his elbow. He's looking around, you see him, he checks his shoulder, and then he turns around. At that point, he's falling on his arse, the ball's in the net. What's your takeaway for the first goal there?
I think for me, Kobayashi is definitely a fault, but you need to look at Joe Hart as well, Steve. I think Joe Hart, like you said there, Joe Hart should be doing so much better. See if he gets a very strong fist to that. Celtic can definitely stop that first goal, but like you said, I wasn't impressed with Kobayashi all afternoon. I thought he had a very bad game.
He was very shaky. He showed when he came in, he was getting a bit of criticism around Hearts. I was willing to sort of give him the benefit of the doubt, Terry, because in his small cameos that we'd seen him through the season, he looked fairly assured, didn't it? And I suppose the thing that we were concentrating on was this side of he can play with the ball at his feet, a good range of passing. That's all fair well when you've got the time on the ball and you can pick the pass you want. But between the Hearts game and this, he was under the cosh, was he not? They went for a front 3 that had a lot of speed to offer, and he didn't look as if he could cope with it.
I mean, I don't want to be overly harsh on the guy, because I still think he's in a settling in period, and he does look nice and tidy on the ball. And I do think, being naturally left-sided, he looks a lot more natural when he's bringing the ball out than, say, Starfelt does whenever he's playing in that position. And we kind of know that because Starfelt's predominantly right-footed. I wouldn't write Kobayashi off absolutely completely. I mean, I'm prepared. I'm prepared to give him the summer and the start of next season to settle in. My gut feel is he isn't going to be at the level needed to challenge Carter Vickers or Starfelt for a place in the first team. I don't at this stage see him being any more than a backup. But can you imagine? Can you imagine if we went into the Champions League with that defence today? And that's probably a little bit unfair because, you know, that defence was. There's only one player in that back four today who's in our starting lineup, and that was Starfelt. So Johnson comes in at right back, Taylor comes in at left back, and Carter Vickers, who is the main man in that back four, the glue that holds that whole defence together. I think you can't underestimate his influence when you see us today in that environment and he's not there. It's a completely different ball game. And the one thing that I've said before as well, Kobayashi hasn't actually played alongside Carter Vickers yet, and I'd be happy to try and see that combination before I completely write him off. I would like to see that. I'd like to see that combination, because I think Carter Vickers would be a massively calming influence beside the lad, and all of his appearances have kind of been whenever Ange has taken the opportunity to drop Carter Vickers out just to give him a break, because he's been carrying that injury that needed the surgery and things like that. So, I mean, if you were looking at a back four of Johnson, Taylor, Carter Vickers and Kobayashi, that might be a different story than what we've seen today, which was backup right back, albeit a backup right back that I'm more than happy with, and that many of us on the bus were championing as our best right back last season. So I'm not saying Ralston's a massive step down, but I think he definitely is number two, and you could see that. And on the other side, I've not seen anything at all to suggest that Greg Taylor isn't miles ahead of Bernabei. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised this summer if that lad moves on again. You know, none of us want to see Celtic players come in, and we don't want to be talking about the negatives. But other than that sort of wonder strike that he had, was it at Tannadice? I could be wrong. I think it was at Tannadice.
No, it was at Dingwall, Ross County.
Was it Dingwall? Yeah, got it wrong. Thank you, Regan.
Service he provides, mate.
Drinks. I mean, he had a wonderful finish, and I think there's a level of ability there, but I don't know who decided to write a check for $4 million for him. I don't see, unless there's a massive improvement there over the next few months, I don't see how he's going to break in or even challenge Taylor in the slightest. And I just think that back four today was so far off what our best back four is. But I also think even at our best back four, I still think there's room within that for improvement. And our best back four, I don't want to go into the Champions League with our best back four at the minute either. I think there's room for improvement between the sticks.
Yeah,
I think there's room for upgrade at centre half. And as steady as Greg Taylor has been, I still think there's room for upgrade at left back. So I don't want to write Kobayashi off based on what he's done. I'd like to see him in a more sort of first team defensive makeup and see how he gets on there. But my gut feel is that that lad's not going to be good enough to be a mainstay.
Sorry, Regan. I just to touch on that. Myself, I've been quite much like Mark. I've been fairly vocal on my assessments of Bernabei. Personally, I think he's a failed winger that's had to drop back. He seems a wee bit more prolific and comfortable in advanced positions rather than defending. But I'm a great believer that if you're a defender, no matter what position that is across a back line, you need to be able to defend first and foremost, and he doesn't seem to possess those qualities. In terms of looking at the back four and you're saying, I don't want to write off Kobayashi, then you're not. But here's the thing, and people need to remember this, we're sitting here and this is our gift beer dissecting this. It's not a massacre, it's a dissection, it's a breaking down, it's an analysis. That's what we're here to do. There's no point in just, putting on your specs and walking around blind and saying, oh, it was perfectly fine. You've got to look at these performances. There's nothing wrong we're breaking down our performance by a team, going through it man by man, chewing the fat over it, and looking at the positives and negatives. We're not writing off the team. We're solely looking at today's performance and today's performance. So I think folk need to get their heads around that when we're discussing that. We've not come on here to slaughter, guys. We're looking at face value. How did it look today? And today it wasn't good. So we have to touch on that. Yourself there, Regan, with regards to the back line and Kobayashi and the comments that Bernabe says, are you get much hope for the two of those guys? Maybe not in that four that we've got there, but featuring perhaps in alternative formations. Do you think they'll be more suited to a different setup, or as some people have said, European-style games?
I've got hope for Kobayashi because I think he's still 20, with the right in saying that. So he's still got a lot of time to get a lot better at football. But I think in terms of Bernabe, I think you're better sending him back to Argentina. I know people are saying that he's going to go to Argentina for the national team, but you're better sending him back because I don't think he's going to do very well for us. And I think Terry makes some great points there. Like I think for Celtic to go and do better, which everybody wants us to do, I think in terms of Ange today, I think Ange would have probably looked at today's performance and went, well, do you know what? I've actually spoken to the French players that have played for me at Ibrox, and they've shown me they are not good enough.
Yeah. So, it's interesting because I said at the start of the show, and as Terry kind of alluded to, personally with this game, I'm a little bit conflicted. As I say, I never want to lose. Am I angry? I was at the time, I'll be honest. I'm not going to say.
You were earlier on.
Listen, I'll wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'll never apologise for doing that. That's the beauty about football fandom. We're perfectly within our rights to be pissed off as it comes at the material time. You take a wee step back, you take a breath, and you look at it. And it was actually my wife, of all people, who doesn't give a fuck about football, that sort of made me look at it with a different prism. And she says, how are you after the game today? And I was ranting, raving, and fucking these guys are useless. And we fucked about in a big game. You don't experiment in these games. And I still do hold that we should always play our best team, particularly against Rangers. But she did say something. She says, look at these guys that you're criticising. Do you think they are likely anytime soon to be starters in the team moving forward? And I says, no, I don't. Because I don't think they're up to it yet, and I don't think they're good enough. And she says, well, is that not smart by the manager? And I says, no, it's fucking stupid. He was an idiot for doing that. But then she brought it back round and says to me, well, think about it. That was going to be possibly the most intense atmosphere that they're going to play, and definitely the most hostile, all Rangers fans. And it was going to be a case of can they sink or will they swim? They're probably never going to get that chance. So why not do it whilst there isn't anything on the line and see how they get on? And as much as I say I'm conflicted about that mindset, I do kind of understand it, because what's the point of having to maybe throw one of these guys in mid-season when it really matters because of injuries, and that's all we've got because we've not tested them, and we think, oh, they'll be all right, they'll get there, and then we throw them in, and then we get served up that dog shit. But at least now we can look at guys, and as Regan says, maybe that squad depth, maybe that quality that we thought is there is perceived quality. And when it comes push to shove, that there is room for improvement across the board. So do you think that's a fair assessment? Was it the right decision, Terry, when we look at it with hindsight and we try to be a bit more, look at it with a bit more perspective rather than face value of it's in front of our nose?
No, not for me. I don't think it was. I mean, next week would have been a much better opportunity to give some of those fringe players game time at home with the crowd behind you, and having done the business today. I'm never really a fan of kind of making lots of changes for away games, because every single away game in this league, no matter whether it's against Rangers or whether it's against the teams down at the bottom, every single away game, you have really got to earn the points. And if you look at the games that we have lost this season and in previous seasons, they're away games where we have made lots of changes. So the St Mirren game, we made multiple changes in a away match. Today, made multiple changes in a away match. And in previous seasons, I can't name any in particular, but I much prefer making those changes, doing the squad rotation at home in a much more safe environment. We're always going to have the bulk of the possession in home games. We're much more likely to win them convincingly. So I would prefer to see those changes made in a week's time against St Mirren than for that game today. I will touch back though, because we can pull out positives from every single, no matter what scenario you come up against in life, you can pull positives out. And I hope I'm getting the name right. I think it was Alan Robertson about 3 or 4 comments ago, and he made the point that maybe this result today means that when Ange is going in to speak to Peter and the rest of the board people around what next season's budget looks like and what we're going to do, actually there might be a positive from today's game, because Ange can go in there and go, well, actually, you know what? We're not actually, we may have won the treble, hopefully not tempting fate. We may have won the treble, but look at that game. There's our closest rivals. They gave us a bit of a doing. Do you know what? Instead of 15 million, Peter, I need 25. I need to strengthen more positions.
Tough love, maybe. Because
if something happens to player A, then player B isn't good enough. I need to do more. So it's scratching around a wee bit for positives, but there is positives from every single scenario, no matter how negative it seems. But perhaps that's where we can go in this, where Ange can say to the board, actually, do you know what? You know, we went there, we got a doing. I need your back in here. In order to make sure that doesn't happen again next season, I need A, B, and C. Instead of maybe we go there, we roll them over, Ange goes in to have that conversation, and the board are going, well, do you know what? They haven't touched us in 6 games. They haven't got close to us. We've won the league by 20 points. We've broke all these records, and we don't see the need to speculate. So if there's something that could perhaps come out of it in our favour, then Alan's point is probably the one.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, as you say, is it maybe scratching around? Is it maybe looking for positives when it's hard to take something?
Aye, you're right.
As Ange, as everybody what says, Ange got a master plan. He's shown them the board that they're not quite good enough. I don't think so.
People, what did he say today? I didn't get the post match. I legged it out of that place. Yeah. I legged it out of that place rather sharpish.
The main takeaway that I got from it was when he basically openly admitted, he says, perhaps he made too many changes, and I think he acknowledged that himself, which kind of does surprise me a wee bit, because, you know, as we rightly pointed out, after the loss to St Mirren, it was too many changes. So, you know, once bitten, twice shy. You would have thought that in a more important game against Rangers that we wouldn't have fallen into that. But it was very much as he always was. You know, he's quite fair in his assessment. He didn't crucify anybody. He wasn't overly negative. He was staying positive, and at the end of it, he basically says, "I'm always learning." I think the whoever it was interviewing put something along the lines to him of, "What was your takeaways? What did you learn?" And he says words to the effect of, "I'm always learning." So, you know, is it a soundbite again? Is it just a calm and composed manager saying something and saying the right thing that sounds brilliant? No, I tend to believe that. I think that he will know what he can and he can't do, and I think he'll also know who he can and he can't trust, because even though it was a white hot atmosphere there, hostile to say the least, he knows that that's probably not the best version of Rangers that he's going to get, because despite what we want to say, I would expect changes for them and probably an improvement. So we've always got to stay in front, but not just slightly in front. We have got to get better, and that starts with, as we're discussing now, about looking to the squad and looking for an improvement at a level up for Europe, and hopefully the fruits of the domestic stuff will come with that. But let's get back into the actual game and start to look at how it panned out. So if we look at the second goal, again, it's back to this defence thing now. Were you surprised today the way that we struggled with balls in behind in the typical Rangers launched ball? Because previously we've been quite robust, Regan, where balls have been coming into the box. We've been able to just absorb it, eat them up all day long and clear them away. It's a corner this time round. The ball comes in, it's standard Rangers fare. It's shelled in. Kobayashi gets chucked to the
Oh, we're doing so much better. I think in terms of Kobayashi, I think he should be doing so much better. And I think in terms of, like you said earlier, because it's a brand new back four, I'm going to say these guys are probably never played together. So I think that's a bit of a risk you take there as well, Steve-O. But I think in terms of Kobayashi, he's got to do so much better. But I do like some of the comments when they're saying that we should be looking at bringing another centre back, because I think that is priority, and I think that's something that can get a little bit lost when Celtic have got Vickers in the centre back position, because Vickers has not been injured that often. So I know they always say, like, it makes the heart grow fonder when you're missing somebody. So I think in terms of Vickers, I think, see, when he's known that team, Steve-O, I think it's very different as well, because you look at it today, I thought Starfelt had a very good game, and that just shows you.
Excellent, we'll get to him.
Yeah, and I think that just shows you that Starfelt's a very good player, but I think he felt like he took far too much responsibility, like he was talking Kobayashi through the whole game. And I think for me, that's something that Kobayashi needs to learn, because I think in those big moments you need to be switched on, especially if Celtic are going to go for a treble and try and dwell on Champions League, because I think especially see, when you get to the Champions League, you've got people like so many big top strikers that are not going to, you're not going to get as much time as you will in Scotland. So I think for Kobayashi, it's a big disappointment for him today.
Yeah. See for the second goal, I know you're calling out Kobayashi there. What was his role in it? Because my recollection of it was that Hitati seemed to be picking up John Suter.
I think the big problem for me was the fashion in which it got to the stage as the ball comes in, where he's right on top of it. He's the nearest man. He's in the best position, and he gets involved in this sort of needless, very half-hearted tussle, and he just gets dispatched. He just gets rolled and falls back on his arse and straight in for a header. There's no real attempt to even
Hitati seemed to be on Suter, which that's an alarm bell. That's an alarm bell for me straight away.
That's the thing.
Why is Hitati picking up a centre half? Whenever there's a corner, the two centre backs that come up are probably the two main players that you've got to pick up. So why would Rio Hitati, who's about 5 foot, be picking up a centre half who's come up for a corner? Surely that's got to be somebody else's job.
Well, the thing is, with the way that we defended the corner, or lack of defending, was actually quite peculiar the way it came about. I totally agree that you shouldn't have guys like
people. It looked very zonal.
I totally agree that you probably shouldn't have guys like Hitati defending on it, as I say, when you know exactly what you're going to get from Rangers, which is big balls shelled into the centre of the box. But my point being is regardless if we're playing zonal or any sort of formation like that for our defensive plan and that, the key point is when it comes in, it's Kobayashi who's right on top of it in the best position, and he doesn't even make an attempt to jump. He gets involved in some foolish wee tussle and gets thrown to the ground like an empty tracksuit. That's the concerning thing, and it just creates an absolute clear powering header. And it comes back to what was being said earlier about, is he maybe not used to the sort of rough and tumble? I don't know enough about the J-League. I don't know enough about, what he'd been playing up against before. And I'm not one of these guys that prescribes to this, the Scottish League's a hammer thrower league and you need to be hard and all that kind of stuff. But you do need an element of physicality. And I think that's certainly what we've got with the acquisition of Johnson. And even, as we said, he's been there for a while now, he's well adapted to the game, but Taylor's starting to pick that up in his game. Certainly for us, physicality, Starfelt aside, at the back was something that I thought was so sorely lacking. Now, I know that Ralston has been very good and he can't be criticised because what a transformation we've had in him, but even he wasn't getting close in some of the back positions, and a lot of the time that we were getting exposed was down that right-hand side. The amount of times that they were getting in behind, using their speed and getting purchase and getting balls across our box was actually quite alarming. It's something that we've never saw, and it comes with the territory of being, as we say, a makeshift back four, an experimental back four. But listen, we want to look for positives if we can, and we mentioned him earlier, Starfelt. I thought Starfelt was exceptional today. I thought it was damage control for him. He had a lot of key interceptions, and if we're being honest, he probably stopped a few more goals going in because he made some really key interceptions. You know, I think he proved his worth today. Regan surrounded with a pile of shit.
I think Starfelt showed that, because I think when Vickers is in that squad, Steve, a lot of people say that Starfelt's not very good. I mean, you hear like people in the mainstream media saying that Starfelt's the weak point and people need to get close to him. But I think Starfelt showed today that he's very, very you can trust him. And I think it was a point that you guys made on P.M.P about 2 weeks ago. See the Rangers and Celtic match at the National Stadium. I think if Starfelt wasn't playing that game, Celtic possibly lose that game. So I think in terms of Starfelt, I think he'll be used very much in the Champions League next season, and I think he is going to be a big part of Ange Postecoglou. But I think in terms of Starfelt, I think he's just showed to people that maybe they think he's not a very good defender, but I think he can offer so much to the squad because he showed today, like you said, if it wasn't for Starfelt, it could have been 4 or 5.
Yep.
I would just like to distance myself from Regan's comments. I will never trust him, but I have to hold my hands up. I've warmed to him a little bit in the last 6 weeks or so. I think he's definitely been improved, but there's always a Rick in him, and I don't know what happened between him and the captain. I think they're both culpable for what happened today, but that was a serious fuck up for the third goal. One of them has to take responsibility and clear the danger. The two of them fucked about, and there's also been a few comments there, Steve-O, as well around Joe Hart in today's game. Go back to the first goal. I thought he was weak. I thought he could have put that ball somewhere else rather than straight into Cantwell's path. Also, he gets nutmegged with the secondary shot, which can happen. Yeah. But there was just some of the goals that he's been letting in recently. For me, he's been doing that Barkas thing where he just fucking falls over onto his arse. Mm-hmm. And whether he thinks that's enough to absolve him from any blame, because it's not even a dive, it's just a fucking fall over. And I've given him a lot of credit in recent weeks because there have been games where he's pulled us out, but there's just been goals where it just looks as if you're thinking, well, you didn't actually do anything there. You just fucking fell over in your hole. And I thought he'd done that today a couple of times as well. And my gut feel is Hart will start next season as our number one. Mm-hmm. But I would like to see us strengthen that position. I would like us to go out and replace Joe Hart. I love all the stuff about his influence. No, he can still do that. He can stay. He can be about the place. He can use his experience. I'd like to see us go into the market again for someone better.
There's a few things in his game today that we saw. It's been sort of riddled all through the season. Later on in the game, you see as well where he charges out and he almost gets rounded. And he's sort of tracking a little bit. Kind of scary moments now. Listen, a great signing. I totally agree. I've been a Joe Hart advocate for a good while. And it's hard. Again, I'm conflicted about him because for everything he does good, he has these crazy moments, these moments of madness. I just want to reflect on, I'm not comparing, it's apples and oranges, but let's look at the opposition goalkeeper and look at McCrory. I thought for a young guy, it was like, Hart was like what we've seen with Al McGregor against us, where he's looked a bit out of sorts. He's looked a bit slow to react. He's made poor decisions. Whereas you look at McCrory, he was sharp, he was out, he was on top of it. He made very little mistakes. Admittedly, he wasn't really tested to the max. But do you think there's value in, as good as it is having an experienced goalkeeper, that clock does tick down on him and it starts to slow him down? Can we get another full season out of Joe Hart?
Steve, I think that's a good point you make. But I think Terry's spot on. I think in terms of Joe Hart, I think his time's up. I know he's been great on some podcasts talking about the atmosphere around Celtic, and he loves the club and he's so proud to be here. I mean, I'm spot on with it. I think he's been a great influence on the squad. But I think in terms of those big moments, I think we need somebody better than Joe Hart. And I did see somebody in the comments saying play Siegrist for the next three games of the league season. Well, for me, I think if Siegrist is not going to play much this season, I think you can say Siegrist is going to go as well, because Scott Bain is on the bench ahead of him. So
no, I agree. I don't think we've got much aside from Hart. I personally don't think much of Bain. I've not had that, and I'm not sold on Siegrist. I think when you buy a player from a goalkeeper from that SPL sort of realms, I think it's very easy to look good in a bad team when you're getting hundreds of shots pinged at you every other game and you look busy and you're making saves. I think when you get to a team like Celtic, it's important that you know that you're going through periods where you might not even touch the ball and you need to just be on it like that. That's the difference between a good goalkeeper and a great goalkeeper. And I don't see that really in our alternative options to Hart. So I do agree that we need to upgrade on him.
Hart's far and away the best keeper that we have. But is he good enough to be our goalkeeper going into next season? I've got reservations. Going back to the point you made at the start of that conversation, Steve-O, the lad McCrory, I think that's twice he's played against us, and I don't think he's been in the losing side. We talk about small margins in games. I felt the game was done at 2-0. I felt as soon as they got 2-0, we were gone. I had no hope. However, O'Reilly had a chance to make it 2-1. It was a very, very good chance. And that lad pulled off a fucking worldly save, to be a fair worldly save. Mm-hmm. And small sample size, but that lad has done well against us, and they'll do well. They'll do well to get somebody in next year that's better than that kid, to be honest.
Yeah, well, let's look at ourselves again and we always talk about sliding door moments. The key point for us was we know ourselves, started off Rangers much on the front foot. They get the early goal. We're starting to look a wee bit under the cosh, but then we start to look a wee bit like ourselves. We're not firing all cylinders, but we start to get something, a foothold on the game.
Yep.
We get the first chance. Oz slid through. He's one-on-one with the goalkeeper. He opts for chips and he takes the post. Is it? We've said it, we've heard it before. If that was Kyogo, that's in. We don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on it? Does he make the wrong decision there? Is he trying to be cute? Should he just put his foot through it, hit it high? Or is he done everything right bar score? What did you think of that? Because that's a key moment. That could change the momentum swing.
I think if that goes in, then it definitely changes the whole game. But I think in terms of, I think he just needs to put his foot through the ball. I don't think he needs to be as clever as he tries to be. And I think in terms of his wee chip, I think he's not put that much strength into it because he thinks it's going to go in the back of the net anyway.
Yeah.
So, I'm just a little bit disappointed with all, like Terry was saying there. I think in terms of every time he's come on, he's looked okay. But I said this in the group chat about 12 o'clock. I said, one of the important things that O has to do is, I think he needs to make sure he does well against the Rangers defenders and gets the ball under control, because I think that's one of the good things. See if you see all the top strikers, like Mr. Dembele and Edward. And even if you look at Giakoumakis, I think one of the great things that he done against Rangers was buy the team a bit of time, because seeing those games, Steve, it can be a bit stressful. It can be a bit tension. So see if you're buying that wee 10 second, 10 second, 15-second break, that can make all the difference.
Yeah, I think one of the things about that surprised me in the game was, for such a big guy, and he's not a target man as such. That's never the way we play, but he didn't seem quite as involved. I think when he came out, I can't recall because the game's just passed me by, but I remember the commentary throwing out a stat about the amount of times he'd actually touched the ball, and I think it was like under 10 times, which is pretty damning, to be honest. Obviously, it goes for the chip. Is that maybe an experience, or do you think, we've heard it said before about Kyogo, sometimes if he's got too much time to think, he's not instinctive, whereas we saw the goal against Hearts, and it was an instinctive striker's goal, where he just, ball comes across and he flashes it in. Do you think, is he getting a buy on something like that, or is it an experience? Was it the pressure of the moment, or is he just not the polished article? He's maybe not that kind of striker. We've been spoiled with guys like Edward and Dembele in recent years who could do it all for all positions, whether one-on-one, through on goal, or just an instinctive finish. Do you think we've got a striker at the moment that can do all? We've spoken in a third.
No, I think O's, like you said there, he's a bit, I don't think he's totally finished, and I think he's still got a lot of development. I did see in the comments there, somebody saying maybe he can go on, maybe try somewhere else at the moment. And I think that'd probably be the best idea, is maybe get him out, maybe on another Scottish club, just to see if they can see how he plays. Because I think if you're coming into Celtic, I mean, I dread to think if say this time next year, Steve, right, is 6 points in the title race, and we've got O up front because Kyogo's 6 weeks 6 weeks off with a long-term injury. So look, I don't want to be in that position, but where Celtic have got that one player to rely on for the rest of the season.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. We've said this before, Terry, multiple positions that we would ideally want to see strengthened, certainly at the back, certainly at defence. I think we're looking pretty good in the midfield. Up front's always been one. We obviously lost a fan favourite and a bus favourite in Giakoumakis. We've got to trust the manager. He thought perhaps Giakoumakis was to move on, and there was an assumption that O was going to be the successor and perhaps an upgrade on it. It is early days yet, but have you seen much promise in it, or are you still thinking that really we've only got Kyogo that you can depend on? We score from all over the pitch, but do we need that second? Do we need maybe one, maybe even two proper striking options to, alleviate the concerns that Regan said there if we find ourselves in an injury crisis?
I think when Giakoumakis was here, there were points where we were debating who was actually the first choice. Now, it was always clear Kyogo was the first choice for the manager, but we were debating as a fan base who we actually felt was the first choice. And there were moments where Giakoumakis was holding his own in that conversation. There's nothing whatsoever to suggest that O is anything more than a substitute for Kyogo. There's nothing so far now. He's shown some promise, but it's not an argument. Kyogo is the first choice striker, whereas I think Giakoumakis, in some people's eyes, was seen as a very, very close alternative to Kyogo. The other thing is, I keep saying the same thing today, but small margins. O scores that. They took the lead against us for the first time this season, and no, it wasn't actually, because they led in the Ibrox game, but they took the lead against us. If we had scored within 2 or 3 minutes again, that could have changed that whole game. That could have completely dampened every bit of enthusiasm they had, and they go, fucking hell, we finally get a break against these guys, and they're back again. That game can end up 2-3, 4-1 to us, and all of a sudden it's a completely different conversation, and we're full of beans, and we're talking about how great the team were. Small margins. It hit the outside of the post. It could have hit the inside of the post. It could have went into the net. It just didn't happen. Would Kyogo have scored that? Kyogo has missed a lot of chances.
Yep, definitely.
Kyogo to me is when you expect him to score, he misses. When you don't expect him to score,
he does sound extraordinary.
Like, go back to the cup final against Hibs and those two worldies. Like, you don't expect that they're going to end up in the net, especially the second one, the winner in that League Cup final game where he hits it. You're not expecting him. You're not expecting him to shoot. You're not expecting him to score, and it goes in. So there's absolutely no guarantee that Kyogo would have scored it. And even, Steve, you made the point, had about 10 touches. If you watch back the last lot of games, Kyogo probably had less than that in each of those games. He's been very, very uninvolved in games. And then all of a sudden, just bang, he puts it in the net. And it's small margins. And if O scores that today, the whole game could have played out completely differently. But he didn't. And that's what we need. We need somebody in those key moments who can absolutely deliver. And I don't think Kyogo is the most natural finisher that I've seen at the club. He definitely isn't. But at the minute, he is by far and away our number one option up there. And I think that's what we've seen today with the guys that have come in. There is absolutely no doubt Kyogo's the number one striker. Absolutely no doubt Greg Taylor's the number one left back. We've touched on Joe Hart. There's absolutely no doubt Joe Hart is the number one goalkeeper. There's absolutely no doubt Starfelt and Carter Vickers are the number one centre-backs. There's absolutely no doubt Alistair Johnson is the number one right-back. So I think what we've learned today is the guys who weren't there are by far and away first choice in their positions.
Head and shoulders above the alternative. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I just want to jump in there in terms of that, Terry, because I think that's not a good thing for the squad either, knowing that every single one of your back four is a definite starter. I think also sometimes you need a bit of, am I definitely going to play this week?
Yeah. No, definitely. That's the thing. We need healthy competition. We need competition as exactly that, by the definition of the word. It's competition. It's not backup. They're two different things. And I think that's certainly what it looked at. But listen, our problems weren't exclusive to the back or the chance up front. Because one thing that's a key component of the way that Celtic play, what gets us tick, which sets the momentum, which sets us up and ultimately defines our matches, is our midfield. Now, we had a very familiar looking midfield today, and they were a mile off it. You know, as we said earlier on, a mainstay, our captain, Cal McGregor, just wasn't quite his usual self. He didn't have that same drive, that composure, wasn't really getting involved and gripping the game with the throat. Likewise with Hatate, there was a lot of misplaced passes. It was a wee bit disjointed. Now, obviously, that's going to come with its problems, but there was too many guys for me across the board, sort of middle to front, that were off the boil. You know, Abada came in from the cold. I thought that was perhaps a strange decision to make. Maybe it was making a point. It was a show of defiance after all this link that he's unhappy and he's wanting to move on. And he comes in, says some positive things and gets a start. He had a really good chance and it fell him perfectly, and he just side foots it nonchalant straight off the Rangers defender. Again, sliding doors moment. What's went wrong there? Is it literally just he's overthought it? He's maybe not expected it? Because, you know, these are great chances. Oz is slightly different. He's got the goalkeeper coming down. He makes a choice. It doesn't work out for him. Abada's right centre off the goal. It makes an arse of it. That's the first one. But then later on in the game, we see O'Reilly. He bursts in. First time he actually really looks up for it. He strides through, does what we'd normally see for Cal McGregor. Takes it on himself. And then, again, does he make a bad decision? He goes for this peculiar kind of nonchalant, high, side-footed, pass almost. Two great chances there again. Break them down for me, Terry. Am I making them out worse than they were? Or were they chances that we should be taking?
The Ibarra one is probably the signature Ibarra goal that you see where he doesn't have time to think about it. The ball's fizzed across and he's on the end of it. So everything was lined up for him to put it in the net. He just makes no connection with it, hits the Rangers defender. It wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have gone in anyway. The keeper would have saved it. The O'Reilly one, I'm probably putting that down to a really good save. I thought McCrory did excellent with the O'Reilly one. I thought that was a really, really top drawer save, I have to say. I get where you're coming from. Could O'Reilly have done something differently? Yeah, he could have went low. He could have. It was almost I'm going for the top corner here kind of thing. But if that ends up in the net, then you're talking about a wonder goal. I prefer on the O'Reilly one. I prefer to give the goalkeeper the credit and again. Grudgingly, from their perspective, you're looking at a young lad who's coming in completely from the cold, played last week, hadn't played really before that this season. He's come in, yes, they're at home, yes, there's no Celtic fans, but they're playing against the champions, and that lad's kept a clean sheet, and he's made a key save at a key time in the game where, again, small margins, that goes in the net, it's 2-1, we're in the ascendancy again. Grudgingly, I'd give the credit to the goalkeeper on that one. Ibarra, I don't know, he wasn't really at the races, but he hasn't been playing. I thought that was a strange one today for him coming in, but
was that a show of defiance?
I'm just done with it. I'm almost at the point where I don't want to talk about the game anymore. I just want to fucking wipe it out, and I just want to wipe it out and think about the next game. But it's so disappointing, isn't it, though? It's disappointing. And yes, we're going to go on and do a treble. And when that treble happens, today will be completely forgotten about. But it's like I said earlier, looking at fucking those old men doing the bouncy and just what are they actually celebrating? Like, what are they celebrating at the end of the day? It's just I despise Mickey Beale more than any Rangers manager in my 45 years on this earth. And I just would have loved him to be standing there again today, scratching his head, going, "I can't beat this fucking team." And you know it. We talked about it briefly in the group chat. I normally don't really comment in the group chat during the game because I'm just so focused on it. But he was standing there with his arms folded and his lip was getting pushed out, and he was trying to just make himself look as if he's some sort of fucking master tactician that has just worked the whole thing out. And this win today is because Mickey Beale has he's had a master plan kind of thing. And reality, whenever all of our frustration goes away and we win the treble, and you look back on it, do you know what? Celtic players, everybody was probably on the piss till about fucking Thursday, and they're just going through the motions. That's probably in reality what's happened, and we're all disappointed just because we want to see Celtic win every single time, and we don't want to see fucking deluded Rangers fans celebrating a match that wins nothing.
Yeah,
but in the grand scheme of things, this game will be completely forgotten in, you know. And all fucking, it'll be a score in the record books, but in a couple of weeks' time, this will be forgotten. We'll be marching to the treble, and you know this is probably it is in reality as frustrated and annoyed as I'm probably feeling. This game will just be written off as a complete fucking no show. It's not nice sitting as a Celtic fan watching these deluded fools. I mean, they're going home tonight thinking they can't wait till the start of next season because they've got all their faith in this fucking absolute fraud of a manager, and he'll be bouncing on, like he'll be telling himself he is the second coming and he has worked it all out and this is all because of him, and he'll be going into the boardroom with his plans for next season going, look, I've sussed this out, I've got these guys back me, and you know what, see if you want to completely turn it on his head, that might actually work in our favour as well. If everybody starts to believe in this fraud that he is the guy that's going to save Rangers and he is the fucking brains behind the whole thing, that might work in our favour long term. I'm clutching, I'm scratching.
Listen, you know, we say that at the top of the show, we've said all through the week. John will say that It was something or nothing. Then it was nothing or nothing. And now it's just, according if you believe
Just
Sky
nothing.
Sports, it's bragging rights. There won't be some bragging come the end of the fucking month, will there not? And that'll be Celtic. But listen, yeah, I don't know if you watched it or saw it, but the post-match interviews for me pretty much showed the two worlds that we live in. Because you had Cantwell and Suter there basically talking up about how it was so important to give their fans something tangible and send them into the summer with a smile on their face. You know, that's, as you say, that's the level that they're at. They'll feel like they've won the lottery, but what they've got is 3 numbers and a tenner. That's what they've got. Do you know what I mean? They phone up like, I've won the lottery. That's brilliant. What you get? 3 numbers. You know, it means fuck all. That's it. It's small margins. It's small wins. It's something to grab onto. It doesn't take away our feelings as fans. And, you know, listen, no matter what camp you're in, if you don't give a fuck, if you're laughing about it, if you're making light of it, or if you are raging, that's what it's all about being a fan. You should be feeling these emotions. And with you, I could tell when you went off on your monologue there, I could sense the frustration. It's a combination of frustration, annoyance, a wee bit of anger, but you can clear your head and you can look at the wider picture. And it is that we are in 2 different stratospheres. We are on the cusp of another treble. Take it in. Those don't come about for nothing. And it was actually quite refreshing. The man who you hate so much backed down and was able to say we were the best team by far because the league table doesn't lie. He can sit there with his chest and his lip puffed out all he wants, but he knows deep down exactly what the script is and what the pecking order in this country's league is. Listen, I'm under no illusions that they'll be buoyed by it. It'll, you know, have them full of the beans and they'll be thinking that they're going to go on a tear next season. I've already seen it and I've bookmarked it and I'll send it in the group chat and I've put it in my wee file that's called For Future Embarrassment to be rolled out later on in the season. But listen, Regan, we'll wrap it up. We'll just quickly get a once-off for both these. Sum up, final thoughts. We've got bigger fish to thrive. We've got a title to lift soon and hopefully a treble at Hampden. I know what camp I'd rather be in.
Yeah, Steve, like you said there, I think I'd rather be in this camp because Celtic are going for their 5th treble in 7 years, and we've got 11 of the last 12 trophies. So I think if you're Michael Beale, I think it's Michael Beale's move 3, Celtic 0. But next time, Celtic will manage to do very well. But I think over the course of the season, we can't deny that Celtic have been the best team, and the best team always rises to the very top. Steve?
Absolutely, absolutely. Terry, anything you want to say, or did you get it all out there?
No, I said it earlier. I'm just going to draw a line under it. I'm disappointed. I'm not annoyed. Players have made me so happy this season. Club have made me so delighted. We're on track for the treble. I'm just gonna say one wee thing. Courtesy of a guy called the Medal Man, I'm just going to put my championship medal on. We've got the trophy beside us. Champions, champions, ole, ole, ole. Get it up.
Absolutely. That is it. Listen, we've said it before. There's only one Champions of Scotland. Trebles don't come too often, but there's one just round the corner. Just remember, in times of sadness, you've got to look at where you're at. Celtic are climbing the mountain. We're the top of the mountain. We shall not be moved. We've only moved today, and we ain't going anywhere. So, guys, thank you very much for joining me. It's maybe not been the nicest conversation to be having, but hey-ho, what are you going to do about it? Guys will be back. Maybe, I don't know, Russell will want to get all his frustration and opinions out. Maybe a wee sesh tomorrow. Who knows? If not, we'll see you at the turn of the week, guys. Girls and everybody else, take care of yourself. And listen, don't a game.
I mean, you've all that stuff at the start. You know, they won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.